Hello, I'm Kale. Have you ever been part of a friend group or a hangout and you had one of your buddies come to you and say, hey, there's someone new that I'd like to introduce and include to our group? What would your reaction be? Would you be all for it? Or would you maybe have some questions first? Like, who is this person? What are they like? This situation is very similar to the topic of trans athletes in sports. I've done lots of studying and preparing for this speech by going through online articles from Berkeley to USA Today in order to prepare myself. First, I'm going to go over the laws and policies regarding trans athletes. Then I'm going to go over the two main viewpoints of fairness versus inclusion. Lastly, I'll go over some of the social aspects about revolving around this topic. First, though, I'm going to discuss the major laws and policies that affect trans athletes. Starting with Title IX. Title IX is a part of the Educational Amendments of 1972, which prohibits discrimination based on sex in education programs that receive federal financial assistance. Title IX also includes athletics and is believed by some to include transgender students' right to participate in sports programs based on their current gender identity. Others, however, disagree. They believe that allowing trans students to participate based on their identity will directly violate Title IX's intent to ensure fairness and equality in their games. Most recently, the U.S. government filed a lawsuit against the state of Maine for Maine's refusal to ban trans athletes based on to refuse to ban trans athletes from their women's only sports. Additionally, in terms of bills, Representative Greg Stubb recently introduced the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act of 2025, which prohibits biological males from participating in female and women's only sports. Now that I've talked about the government state laws and policies, I want to go over some of the policies for a major sports organization, NCAA. NCAA's board of directors recently voted to update its transgender inclusion policies following the Trump administration's executive order to ban and limit female sports to only include biological women and girls. First, I went over the laws and policies of transgender athletes. Next, I'm going to discuss the two main viewpoints of fairness versus inclusion. The arguments of fairness versus inclusion are the two main viewpoints of this controversial topic. And the Trump administration, and likewise most conservatives, believe that fairness and equality is more important than including trans athletes based on their identity, especially when it comes to trans females from participating in women's only sports. Liberals, however, have a different view of fairness. They believe that fairness is including trans athletes in sports regardless of their gender identity in order to, without extra discrimination or hurdles to jump through. First, I went over the laws and policies regarding trans athletes. Then I discussed some of the two different viewpoints of inclusion versus fairness. Lastly, I want to go over some of the social aspects of trans athletes in sports. The discussion of trans athletes in sports is a controversial and passionate topic. And I want to take a look at one such instance where things came to a heated turn. Representative Laurel Libby faced major backlash and was later barred from voting after making a Facebook post criticizing the inclusion of a transgender athlete in a women's only sport. More than 100 people came out to condemn Laurel Libby's post while testifying in a related bill. And it wasn't until May of this year that the Supreme Court said that the Maine House of Representatives cannot bar any lawmaker from speaking in chamber or voting following a Facebook post in the comments that they made in said post. First, I went over the different laws and policies that affect transgender athletes. Then, I went over the two main viewpoints of fairness versus inclusion. Lastly, I went over the social aspects of this topic. In conclusion, I hope that my speech has better informed you about the state of this controversial topic. And I hope that you are now confident enough to take a stance on what you believe is right. I do feel though that it is important to remember that no matter what side you agree with, it is important to treat every person with love and respect. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.